All right. Hey, everyone. Mark P. Markets here. Let me adjust my microphone. Thank you for joining me for another Bitcoin video analysis session. Now, this is not the same as what I was doing earlier. Interesting turnout, huh? People that were watching me earlier. Anyway, in this session, if you're new, I'm going to be evaluating Bitcoin on the daily time frame. Okay, we're going to consider price structure and some potential scenarios for the next few days. Okay, this is valuable if you're a swing trader primarily. This is not the day trade time frame. Also, it can help you account for risk. And then once I complete that, then I'm going to answer your questions. So if you have a stock or an altcoin you would like me to look at and evaluate, please put it in the channel now. I am simulcasting on TradingView. Okay, so hold on, let me just pull that up here so I can see what's going on there. And now would be a good time. Also, if you want to share what country or what city you're from, that's always a fun fact. Okay, so with that being said, let's get this thing started. All right, let's pull this up. So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. All right, now, so again, hello TradingView. All right, so here's the thing. This is Monday, right? So I always tell people, check out the economic calendar first. Before I talk about that real quick, let me just mention, I am sponsored by 8Cap Partners. If you're a non-US resident, okay, they are a trading partner of TradingView, and they're actually they're reestablishing their integration. So that's going to work again soon, okay? But you will be able to trade your 8Cap account through the TradingView platform, which is a nice feature. Also, they offer a wide variety of instruments to trade. They are an Australian Forex and CFD broker. They're regulated in Australia. So again, if you'd like to open an account, you can find a link in the description portion of this video, okay, or the signature portion if you're on TradingView. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right, Han. Hey. Okay. Still. Okay. Yeah. You just. Oh. Okay. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I had some problems, as you can see. I had some problems, and you probably got kicked out again. All right, but we're going to fix that. Anyway, all right, people. So again, if you have a question, if you're in the TradingView area, now would be a good time to ask the question. If you have an altcoin that you'd like to see, please put USD or USDT after the symbol so I get it correct, okay? Now, here's a quick question for all of you to see if you've been doing your homework. Who can tell me what are the important economic events for this week? Can anyone tell me? If Bill was here, he would probably just blurt it right out. But can anyone tell me? You should all be checking your economic calendar. Don't just tell me you are and I'm like, yeah, I'm checking it. Can anyone tell me what important economic events are scheduled for this week? Can anyone tell me? TradingView also. You guys have been checking your calendar? Hey, Steve, good to see you. So come on, you guys, I want to see some answers. This is the interactive portion of the video. I always check the calendar and I want to see if other people are checking it. I'm like, let me see if other people are checking that calendar. It doesn't matter which calendar you check, but you should be checking one. TradingView has its own calendar, but there are plenty of calendars online that you can take a look at for economic events. Have you guys been checking? I don't see one answer here. Come on, you guys. This is for your benefit, not for mine. I check the calendar and I know within 2 seconds if there's anything worthwhile or not. FOMC minutes, Levent. So, hey, Levent from Turkey. FOMC minutes. Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, and I got Sejan over here. FOMC minutes. Okay, good, you guys. So the point of that exercise was, there's lots of minor things on the calendar usually. Most of it you don't need to pay attention to. Okay, but there's no NFP, right? There's no FOMC meeting. The minutes are, because of the way things are these days, the minutes actually carry a little bit of weight. So that we can argue that that's the most important event for this week. Now, keep in mind, here in the US, we have a holiday on Thursday, okay? Thanksgiving holiday. I don't know if people celebrate that in other countries. I was speaking to someone in Bulgaria, and they had mentioned something about a turkey. I'm like, they celebrate Thanksgiving in Bulgaria? So anyway, I don't know if anyone else celebrates this this holiday, but it's meaningful because it's going to affect the markets. Okay, because Thursday the markets are closed, the NYSE and the Nasdaq, all that stuff is closed. The stocks are closed, the bonds are closed. That means that Wednesday is probably going to be a miserable day to get involved. Now, I can tell you from experience, I've seen how markets trade during this week. Usually it's a good idea to just take the whole week off as a trader. You want a good time to maybe plan some investing ideas, or maybe practice some stuff or whatever, but you should not be aggressively looking for trades. Okay, I mean, we look for Bitcoin day trades each day, but even we're probably going to see some effect there. Now, interestingly enough, what's going on here, we talked about what's going on here earlier today, right, people? Stian and Eligius, I think he was there. Han was definitely there. So, but don't expect this type of momentum to continue. Typically, volume will lighten up, okay? And I'm going to tell you a scenario that I've seen multiple times over the years, and it's very aggravating. That's why I tell you it's best to just avoid. You get a slow grind, right? And especially in optimistic, nonsense, bullish markets like we had a previous year, you get the slow grind, the bullish slow grind, and it's very hard. You know why? Because you're never sure if you're buying the top. There's no way to know if you're buying the top. If it pulls back just a little bit after you buy it, you're likely to get scared out, especially if you're very sensitive like me. I don't trust buying those highs like that, and then it barely pulls back. Even worse, if you say, oh, it's got to pull back, and you short it, you're asking for nothing but trouble, and then it just grinds a little higher and a little higher and a little higher. And those, I call those like stupid, mindless grind markets, because you can be a complete moron, buy it, and then finish the day green. Oh, that was pretty easy. All right. But that's not normal behavior. So you have to keep that in mind. Can we see that on Wednesday? Possibly, but I'm just warning you. If you want to play the slow grind game and you want to buy it and hopefully it works out, if it turns and you get stuck in that, that's a risk that you're facing. Okay. Don't look at the reward, look at the risk. When I had that day trade earlier today, I was more, of course, focused on the risk. How much are we risking here? Now, I talked about the potential low getting taken out, and that is what the 30-minute chart favored. Remember, everyone? Okay. Oh, do I see porn over here? Oh, come on with these guys. I thought I was seeing something productive. Yeah, okay. Sorry, porn guy, but you're in the wrong place. I'm going to have to kick you out. Porn spam. I don't know why they pick on me. I have like no followers. And my followers are interested in charts, not porn. Unless you're Bill, of course. I'm sure Bill would want to check the links just to make sure they work. I'm joking. I like to pick on Bill. All right. Bill's not checking any porn links. All right. Anyway, you guys. All right. So you follow me on that news event situation. That's why it's important to recognize the holiday. Now, you may ask, well, what about Friday? Friday is probably going to be just as bad. It's usually a half a day in the markets. And again, don't waste your time. If you have something else better to do, please go do it, or go do something else. It's just not worth it. Okay. Even if the day is a slow grind, it's just not worth it. Because if you get mixed up and you get caught up on whatever, it's just really it's not worth any of the risks. Okay. So please keep that in mind. Now, next week, things will tend to get more back to normal. That's been the typical cycle. But keep in mind, the first couple of weeks of December, we will most likely see regular activity, regular volume type of situation. As we go into the second 2 weeks, expect the nonsense again. Okay, the slow grinds, the lower volume. It's usually a good idea to not really get involved, or stick to bigger picture, or maybe focus more on your investing strategy. Okay, and have your plans, start planning for the coming year, and figure out scenarios, things like that. That's what I'm going to be working on. Probably less swing trades, even, because I know this environment. Okay, I know what to expect. All right. So with all that being said, you guys have any questions about that? Let's talk about this Bitcoin situation here. All right. Now that we got the news over with. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me just switch back over here. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, thanks, Steve, for mentioning that. Yeah, you guys, if you can't see me on TradingView or whatever, you need to refresh the browser. Okay. It's usually like a browser problem, browser situation. So please do that. if you have that problem. Okay, can we say that the bottom is not 100% if the rate still grows? Okay, so no, so I used the title, "Where's the Bottom?" and I wrote a TradingView article with the same title. I put that title because I thought maybe it would attract some curiosity, because there's no way to know where the bottom is. Okay, so it's kind of a trick question. Where's the bottom? So let's talk about that a bit. Now, as you can see on this chart, this is the chart that I used for my article. Okay, and I drew this rectangle here. I made some adjustments since the 17K break, because for the longest time I had something like this in the 17K area. We compromised the area. We established a lower high. Look at this price action. Okay, lower high likely to lead to lower low. So I'm anticipating a test of 14 to 12K, and the midpoint area of that is this area. It's basically like the midpoint area. So it's possible to see support there. Is that where I think the bottom is? No, I have no idea where the bottom is. Now, keep in mind, if the market makes a lower low, which it's poised to do, then the bottom is not a single event. This is the point. You need that, the bottom needs to settle. If the market's going to find a bottom, it's going to take some time to establish. So meaning you may get the lowest low, right? Like whatever, something like this. And then it needs to consolidate. It needs to test that low again, possibly. And then it needs to start breaking resistances. That process can take weeks. So understand, by the time we can confirm a bottom, we're going to be way off of it. Okay. So don't expect, oh, I'm going to buy the bottom. To buy the bottom, it's a gamble, and you're taking enormous risk if you think you've pinpointing the bottom. Don't do it. It's a very expensive process. You may say, well, I think 12K is the bottom, and my fake guru agrees with me. Meanwhile, 5K may be the bottom in reality. We don't know. Now, Peter mentions here with the rate, interest rates. The interest rates are not helping this situation. Okay, and the Fed doesn't seem to be changing its language or anything. We looked at the bonds earlier today. The bonds haven't really done much. I mean, I'll show you the bond market here real quick. We can take a look at ZN1, and they haven't changed. This is meaningless price action, okay? Especially going into a holiday mode. This is meaningless. If anything, it's respecting the resistance. So if that's the case, I mean, rates are still poised to rise. All right. So if that's what's going on, Bitcoin is not likely to find a bottom or put together any type of meaningful rally anytime soon. If you bought into this blindly, especially if you believed these morons calling, for a bull market, blah, 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 there's absolutely no reason for the market to be bullish. Okay. There's nothing but bearish signs everywhere, and they continue to linger. That's knowing that and having a good grasp of the economic context. I was able to avoid the market top, and I was also able to avoid getting involved too early. And that includes in Bitcoin. I don't have any kind of large inventory in Bitcoin, very small. It's not even worth mentioning. That's how small it is, because it's too early. Okay. Now, some people bought when we had this dramatic pullback, a week ago with that FTX situation. They took a small bite. And of course, I warned people, you want to take small bites. Okay, fine. Just keep in mind, take a small enough bite just in case this thing goes to 10K, just in case it goes to 5K. Account for that risk, okay? Because, I mean, in terms of levels, 14K, or basically the 12 to 14K area, mostly more likely 12K, is a pretty heavy resistance, which is now likely to act as a support. So if this thing may consolidate somewhere and eventually develop a bottom, that's one potential level to keep an eye on. Okay. So, an inventory accumulation plan may be, hey, buy some at 15K, buy some at 14K, buy some at 13, buy some at 12, again, small bites. In order to do that, you have to have a target allocation. You have to know how much you're investing before you even begin investing. You can't just randomly, I'm just going to buy a little bit today. I don't know how much. I'm just going to buy some. You can't do that. You have to have a plan. Okay. You have to have it all figured out in advance. What if this thing breaks 10K? What if it goes to 5K? Are you going to be too big? Are you going to watch, your $50,000 investment get cut in half? That's a really bad idea. You're going to be emotional. You're likely to bang it out at the bottom. Now, the most extreme situation would be 1K. Now that's very hard to believe. Where would I even come up with that number? Am I turning into a fake guru? No. 1K is the original peak of wave one. Okay, the wave one of the larger, the move to 20K. When we had that move to 20K, that was the broader wave one, right? The top of that wave one within that wave is 1K. And that was established back in like what, 2015 or something like that, 2016. So that's extreme. Now again, I'm not saying that this thing's going to go there, but I can tell you one thing in terms of wave counts. The fact that we are now established, we're clearly below 20K. There's no more fooling around the 20K area. We've now compromised it, and this is clear now. It's made its decision. That means we're not in a broader wave four. For the longest time, I suspected we were in a broader wave four, kind of like the gold situation. But this now says that wave four, we're overlapping a wave one from way back. I don't have to show all that here, but I mean, I could show you real quick. I guess we're talking about Bitcoin. Might as well. All right. So look, I'll show you what I'm talking about, because you need to understand wave counts and what it means. Okay. It doesn't mean that the market's going to go the way we think it's going to go. That's not what it means. It just means that if we have the overlap, this is the overlap. You see this right here? Okay, that's the original wave one. That's the broader wave, and this is the wave one of one that I was talking about. Okay, the 1,000 level, right? What's the high over there? I'm sorry, yeah, 2978. So 3,000, 1,000, 3,000, same thing. Okay, so basically that's the wave one there. But this wave one, we've overlapped. You see this? We overlap. That's a clear-cut overlap. So that, I was giving it some room to play around, because when you're working on these large time frames, you have to give that rule. You have to give it a little flexibility when you're dealing with the type of random price action that we're dealing with. But that's clear-cut overlap, and it's confirmed. So that means that there is no wave four. That means that we're in a wave two. Okay, most likely we're in a broad wave two. That's Elliott wave. That's the kind of subjective adjustment you have to make. That's why you can't sit there and trade on, oh, it's a wave four. I'm just going to buy as much as I can at the bottom, and I'm going to wait for wave five. There is no wave five now. Okay, so we're actually in a wave two, and there's no way to know that until it confirms by breaking 20K and staying below it like it is now. So if you know anything about these Elliott wave rules, wave two can potentially retrace 100% of wave one, meaning to the bottom of wave one, right? So that's that 3K, 1K area. Now, again, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that we are going to. I'm not saying that. But you should account for the possibility. That is what I'm saying. I think it's an extreme possibility, but you should account for it. So knowing that information, you should probably not overly aggressively be buying. You should not be overly accumulating. We're not anywhere near a bottom. There's nothing that says bottom right now. Okay. So yeah, these are low prices, but they can still go lower. So if you're going to accumulate, tiny bites, small bites. I've been saying small bites since 40K. Since we broke the 40K support, I said, that's it. You need to stay small now, because we don't know where this thing's going to go, right? The supports are cleared. The broader trend the bullish trend was broken at that point. Go back to my old videos. I said that stuff. While everyone else, hey, it's gonna go back to 100K. You'll see. I hope you know better by now. I hope you don't listen. I harp on the fake gurus a lot, because you know what? There's no accountability. They can say whatever they want, and a lot of people get screwed as a result. And people don't learn. Okay, they have an emotional appeal, and people just get sucked right in, and they feel like they're going to miss out. And meanwhile, the fake guru, they can, a lot of these guys don't even use their real name. They can just change their name and start out with a new name and get a new following. And there's no accountability. Okay, it's ridiculous that people listen to these morons who get paid enormous amounts of money to push affiliate links and all other kinds of garbage on you, and they're not even using their real name. I mean, you really should question your own judgment if you follow someone like that. Okay, and some people use real names, fake names that sound like real names. I've seen that too. The professionals that I know, like actual professionals, they all use their real name. Okay, people that I've worked with, I know for a fact it's their real name. I worked with them. Okay, I worked in a company with them, so I know it's their real name. All right. Anyway, hey, Bill, good to see you. Instead of typing 1440, Well, I just like it's just a habit, I guess. You guys don't like my 1440 thing? That's unique to me. You're gonna have to accept it. Okay, can you show us your new wave count? Well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna draw all the wave counts on there, Kai. I mean, I think you could pretty much see that from the weekly chart that I showed you there. Okay, abstain from trading in this area. What about? Okay, yeah. So Boone, I answered that question. Again, small bites. But to play the small bite game, you have to have a plan. You have to say, I have $10,000 or whatever amount you're looking to invest, and then you're going to have to break that up into much smaller pieces over a specified period of time. That's how you do that. Okay, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on that, but that's how you do that. Okay, let me go over to TradingView here. I see people typing stuff in, and I'm ignoring them. Let me see what we have. All right, hold on, you guys. So thanks for the calendar, you guys, for answering my question about the calendar. Bill, you missed. I had a question about the economic calendar, and you weren't here. All right, Trojan from Bristol, England. Oh dear. I have another Bristol. I don't know how they speak in Bristol, but I know in London, oh dear, they speak like that. I'm joking. It's my bad British accent. Okay, your charts are always based on simple support and resistance levels. Do you ever give any weight to any other trend types? Rising? No. Good question, Trojan. I mean, look, I draw these horizontal trend lines, right? As you can see, but I am factoring in. I am considering. I mean, because I'm looking at these lower highs. I'm always factoring in the levels. Yeah, sure, I could draw a trend line, but here's the problem with the trend line. If I drew a trend line from here, right, a regular trend line, and I connect this high over here, right, the trend line would have been broken over here. And a lot of morons would, hey, the trend is changing. I'm going to go long. And then the FTX situation reaches the market, which no one saw coming. And the long was, I'm going to hold on now because it'll come back. No. Okay. I called a short, believe it or not, at 20,250. I had no idea what was going on with that was before the FTX situation, and the FTX situation paid off. Okay, I was not personally short, but some people took that trade. There was a little pain involved. It never went to the stop, and it was worth 2,000 points. Okay, I had no idea what was going on in the news, and that FTX situation wasn't even in the news yet. That short was called over here. Okay, so that's what I mean. Everyone's paying attention to all this nonsense, and I'm just following price structure. All right. And that's why I don't use trend lines, because again, that would have called for a long. And if you stayed in that long, you got hammered. So, something to keep in mind there. And that's why I also insist on this trend is still bearish, right? It's never changed. There were some bullish movements inside, but no resistances were cleared. And that's really the main thing. So to answer your question, no, that's why I don't use any of that nonsense. I've used it. I've tried it, okay? And it's caused nothing but confusion. The reason why I'm as simple as I am is because it works. It's effective. It keeps me generally on the right side of the market intention. Now, I get stopped out at times. Sometimes there's irrational movements. Markets are random, but I was able to avoid getting long. I still avoid getting long, okay? I was able to avoid that FTX situation because there was no reason to go long. But other things like oscillators and all kinds of other garbage would have told you to go long. And sure, you could have used stops and this and that, and the long could have possibly worked. But, the simplicity that I use, people just don't understand it. They just don't like it because they feel they don't. It doesn't give them that illusion of control. And I've learned, again, I've been in this game a really long time. I've used everything. A really long time is not a couple of years. It's 23 years. Okay, most of these clowns on, I'm a 5-year trader. You're still a beginner, bro. Okay, so yeah. So I've basically separated. I've gotten rid of all the garbage. All right, and I've found the most effective pieces of information. They're very simple, and no one likes it. Okay, because again, there's no complexity. People like complexity. It's an illusion of control. I can't help you with that. If you're one of those people ask me, well, you don't look at this and you don't look at this and this volume thing over here. And no, but there's doesn't matter. Okay, I trust the price. So anyway, So I hope that answers your question. I can talk about that for hours. Don't get me started. All right, try to okay. Milad, hey, Milad from Upper West Side, Mike Bloomberg. Hanging out Mike Bloomberg today. All right, can you look at S&P? Sure. It looks like first wave. Okay, let's take a look. S&P. Now, S&P, as we know, is the stock market. Okay, I'm very intimately knowledgeable about the S&P. Now, wave, I don't know where you're getting that wave count from, but maybe a smaller time frame. There's no wave 1 or wave 2 here. This situation, first of all, be careful with the wave counts. You have to basically isolate it to just this structure. And you're only looking for 5 wave structures, really, right? And if you're in a corrective movement, you're looking for 3 wave. You have to keep that simple too. I mean, you can count 1, 2, 3. Is that a 3? 1, 2, yeah, 4, 5, and then 4, and then this is basically like 5, right? If you want to talk about wave structures, there's 5 waves complete. But thing is, waves can extend. Remember, they're highly subjective, right? That's why I don't place trades based on wave counts. I don't, because I know how subjective they are, and I know how random the market is. So my trades are more based on momentum, price action, levels, okay? Levels, because you really can't go wrong with levels. Levels are basically evidence of behavior, all right? And there was some previous behavior there before, and it's reasonable to anticipate some type of behavior there again, right? Now, so as far as the S&P goes, first of all, look at the level, right? Look where it is. This is basically, it was acting as a support, right? Support, and then it broke, act as a resistance, and now that resistance is sort of compromised, but the general area is still resistance. Okay, on top of that, you have to pay attention to the bigger picture structure. You have another resistance right there. Okay, so you have all these layers of resistance above you, and that's interesting. Okay, cool. I mean, resistances can break, but here's the thing. Look at this high over here, right? That was the peak of the year or whatever, the beginning of the year, and look at this low. That is not a bullish structure, okay? That's generally bearish. Now, we also have the context of rising interest rates. This is likely not going to continue to compromise resistance levels. Now, yeah, we are in Santa rally season, a lot of optimism, a lot of nonsense, and a lot of irrational whatever. But I'm not going to buy into anything on that idea. But here's the thing: this structure right here, right? There was a sell signal a few days ago, right? I guess that was the previous week, and it's not going anywhere, right? It was followed by a conflicting signal, and it's struggling now to try to develop a new buy signal. If you get another buy signal off this, right, you may see something like this. And that's going to suck in a lot of people. And they're going to think, oh, yeah, bull market, stock market's doing great. I'm going to buy Apple because everyone else buys Apple. Okay, that kind of nonsense. And meanwhile, you're buying right into another resistance. I'm not going near this thing long. But short, you may get another, maybe get another push. This is too early for a short, in my opinion, because this can turn into a higher low, right? So that's why, yes, we can count 5 waves, but that wave can extend. Look at the level, right? Yes, we're at a resistance, but this is not how a price should behave at a resistance. It should behave more like this, right? A rejection. That's a swift rejection. This is not a swift rejection. That's a lot of overlap. So you have to be careful with that. There may be one more leg higher before you get the swift rejection. Just keep that in mind. And in the broader context of the general bearish environment that we have, that seems to fit the scenario better. Okay, doesn't mean it'll happen, but that type of pattern right there, I don't like that pattern at all for shorts. Trust me, I've shorted a lot of things that I should not have shorted, and a lot of times they started out like that. So I'd rather, like Stian, I always have to bring up a famous Stian quote. He said he'd rather miss a move than lose money. It's better to be out and miss a move than it is to be in and lose money, and that's so true. You can miss moves all day long and still have your money intact, so that when a real quality opportunity comes along, you're prepared and you haven't had to sit through a string of losses, because losses are not just about losing money. It's also losing confidence. Okay. And it's going to be that much harder especially if they take a couple of losses in a row. The winner may be right around the next trade, and then you're going to miss that one because I got screwed here 3 times. I'm going to wait this one out, and then that's the one. Okay, that's just random, but that's typically what it feels like. Okay, so anyway, that's why it's better. You're better off missing moves. All right. Hello. Oh, hi. Okay, no problem. Mike and I are waiting. Yeah, but make sure when I come, make sure Mike pays all the bills because he's the billionaire, right? So make sure he buys all the beers or whatever because I'm not paying for anything. All right. Anyway, put it on his tab. So all right. So that's the S&P. Now let me see what other kind of questions I have here. I saw some stuff earlier. Let me go back. Hey, Sean, good to see you. You're shorting BTC from 16,500. Oh, you're in from 16.5. Okay. That's good if you're there. I mean, I called the short at 16.3, basically unofficially on TradingView. I mentioned that a couple of times, and that seems to be in play now. It's working out well, right? Of course, after the fact. I also had a very nice euro short, which I called that one officially. Let me just check that real quick. How's that doing? Oh, that looks nice. 102.36. It's 100 pips, Stian. All right, nice, and no reason to cover that yet. So up 100 pips on that. Okay, I called that one Thursday of the previous week. Stian knows he's in it. Okay, so CHZ USD. Let's take a look. That's a question I got here. TradingView people, hey, feel free to ask questions. Okay, USD. Whatever. Oh, look at that. Okay. So what is this? Chiles against the US dollar on Binance. Is that the correct symbol? Let's take a look here. So first thing I see, right? I'm looking at structure. I'm looking at levels. I see a generally long-term, generally bullish structure. I mean, going back, right? Just going back like this. Look at this. So, I mean, going back to June of this year. Is that this year? Yes, it is. So, I mean, this thing had a nice little bullish structure going. It found support right around here, and that support has been in play since then, since August. Okay. Now, before we make any judgments, let's look at the weekly chart, because that can also give us some perspective. Okay. And usually, if you're not familiar with a symbol, you should start out with the weekly chart first. I mean, look at this. This is kind of a mess, right? So started out strong, right? Must have been some nonsense, whatever, hype, bullshit. I'm sorry. I don't use bad words. You know what I'm saying. And this consolidation, right? It's basically one gigantic consolidation. So really on the long term, we can say range bound. Okay. Now, as far as levels go, you have a support there, right? It's a proven support. You have a support where it is right now. That's a historical level. Look at that, touched a number of times. And then you have a resistance right about here. Okay, right about there. There's no exact way to draw those horizontal lines, by the way. All right. A lot of times I like to look at like average areas. So, sometimes I'll draw like a midpoint between two areas, or I'm looking at the tails and I'm basically trying to average it out because markets are not perfect. Okay. They're very messy and random. So you do have a support here, but this thing is in a range, right? And relative to the range, this is a minor support. It's not an extreme support. This is your extreme support here. And it was there back in July. All right, and your range resistance right now is basically here. Those are your more relevant levels based on recent time, okay, recent history. So let's go now to the 1440, which no one likes. Let's go back to that chart, and here you go. So as far as right now, you have a minor support, but you're sort of in the middle of this consolidation when we factor in this range low. Right. So now how you deal with that is going to really depend on your risk tolerance. Often these midpoints are very random, but you can see there's been some buying activity, right? A few times. So if you're thinking swing trade, Stian, okay, I can understand why. Now, at this moment, there's no reason to buy. Okay. So you are in a location of interest. We can call it that, but there's no reason to get in. There's no setup. There's no confirmation. Look at this pin bar just from a couple of weeks. What is that, like a week ago, 10 days ago? You want to see something like that. We don't have that. Now, keep in mind, when you see something like this, right? Rally, everyone gets long, blah, blah, blah. especially these clowns up here who buy into the resistance because they think they're going to miss out. And then you get this kind of swift rejection. You know what that means? That means there are a lot of longs, okay? A lot of longs that are caught. So it's very likely that this support breaks because you have too many people that bought into this, and it's when it gives it back like this, that means they're all wrong a lot of times. Usually when things are a little more stable, you see something take more time, right? See, look how long that took, right? That took quite some time. This basically moved the same amount of movement in 3 candles, right? 3 days. This took what, 2 weeks? More? 3 weeks, maybe a month? I don't even know what that is. But that's a long time. Each candle is a daily candle. This only has 3 candles. So someone's stuck, all right, first of all. So please keep that in mind. What that means is that increases the chances of the support breaking. So especially no reason to step in front of this. I would wait. If you're interested in the swing trade, give this thing a chance to test the range low, especially in light of what Bitcoin looks like right now. If Bitcoin breaks, and pushes that low that we were looking at, this thing is likely to test lower prices. And if anything, at least wait for a setup. Okay, so that's how I treat that. Something like this, again, you're dealing with an altcoin. Hopefully I got the right symbol here. You're dealing with an altcoin. Just remember that these aren't really good long-term prospects right now. All right, you're better off on the swing trade time frame and keeping your risk very limited right now. When the environment changes, if you believe in this project, for the long term, I would still suggest small bites. How much is this thing anyway? 18 cents. Okay, so you can build up a small bite position, but I don't trust any of these altcoins, to be honest with you. I really don't, because you have to keep something in mind. This is not just about a function of interest rates. Okay, if we get there's talk of heavy regulation on the horizon, if we start getting that, and these things are now considered securities, I mean, that can change a lot of stuff, right? And they're not going to be able to promote these. If securities law governs these things like stocks, it's probably going to change a few things. So please keep that in mind. Okay. Again, that's just speculation. I'm just guessing, but regulation is usually not a good thing for markets. Markets usually don't rally on that type of information. All right. So keep that in mind. You know how slow governments are and regulators are, but once they catch up and they start coming out with their nonsense, it doesn't, it's not a good prospect for this space right now. Please just keep that in mind. It's another risk that you have to account for. Okay. All right. Let me take a look over here what we got. All right. So I covered the S&P. Okay, cool. All right. So I think I've answered all my questions on that side. Do I have anything else over here? Let me see. All right. No. Thanksgiving. Okay, cool. All right. All right. So let me know, guys, on TradingView. Let me know if you have any other questions. Let me see what's going on here on the other channel here. Target hit 15.8. Oh, nice, Sean. Nice. You got out of some Bitcoin short. Cool. Very nice. All right. Now, what got you into that short? Was that something that you just called, or is that, or was it based on some of the stuff that I've been sharing? That's a nice move. So here, let's go back to a cleaner chart here. Those are all my intraday levels that you're seeing right there. Here, Coinbase is usually clean. There we go. Okay. Yeah, nice. Very nice. Okay, so let me see what else we got here. Okay, yeah, well, cool. Good to see you. Good to see you again, Konstantinos. All right. Yeah. Zen. Right. Well, basically, Joel, I mean, I just look, I'm a big believer in less is more, especially in this game. Less is more. The reason why, in other games, like, for example, if you're a YouTube fake guru, more is better. More videos leads to more whatever. More watch time, all that stuff, YouTube will reward you, right? That more is better, but not in this game. In this game, no one is out to help you. All the information that is given to us, especially if it's free, is complete garbage. So less is more. That's why. And that's why, my goal is to use the least amount of information possible to make a reasonable decision. That's number one. And number two, it's also my goal to minimize myself from the equation as much as possible. That's why I use stop orders to get in and out and that kind of stuff. And I let the market do the work. because I don't know anything, right? The market knows everything. So let the market do the work. People don't like that because people need this sense of control. We have zero control here besides how we manage our risk. It's the only control we have. So that's where you should be an expert, is managing your risk. Not, well, how much money can I make? That's the wrong question to ask. And that's usually the sign of an absolute beginner. Okay. Okay, cool. So let me see. Any other questions, you guys? Any other questions? Let's see. So let's take a look at the dollar. Okay. While you guys, because again, you guys should be keeping an eye on this thing. We looked at this earlier today, and I took the euro short based on this situation, not the way it looks now. I took it based on this back here, right? Because again, I called it on Thursday. Today is Monday. So we've been in that trade for a few days. But why would I go short the euro or basically long the dollar? Well, because look, this is the dollar on the weekly chart, right? And first of all, look at the weekly pin bar. We took out that high. The dollar has a buy signal on the weekly chart. Does this chart look bearish to you? I hope you say no, because there's nothing but higher lows and higher highs. That is, you can't get any more bullish looking than that. Now, at some point, sure, the dollar will turn, right? It's not anything else, but interest rates are going to have to turn in order for this dollar to get off of this bullish situation. Okay. Now, people like to bring up, oh, the dollar, everyone's buying the dollar for these other reasons. Okay, whatever, that's great. But the bond market is a key factor. So, I suspect, I'm not, while it's reasonable to expect a new high in the dollar, that is within reason, the trend is bullish. Okay. It doesn't mean we will get one. It's also very possible that we establish a lower high somewhere in there. Perhaps the dollar wants to consolidate on a broader, over a longer period of time. That's possible. Okay. So my euro trade is basically, the targets are based on this area right there. So if the dollar gets up there, that's a nice 200 pip win basically on the euro. That's what I'm looking at. Can it go further? Sure. Okay. But I don't look for home runs. I look to make the least amount possible for the least amount of risk. That's another thing. Again, people don't like that idea. They think they should maximize this and maximize that. But the more you look for, the lower probability you face. Okay. And probability is not something that you can see. So keep that in mind. All right. So what else we got here? I got a few more minutes, people. Good time to ask me some questions. I mean, it's kind of slow, right? But it is a holiday week. What do you expect? All right. So that's the dollar. What else can I show you guys? Here, how about this? Let's take a look at, remember these QNT? Remember these? Remember this nonsense? Do you remember? Look, this was just a few weeks, actually a couple of months ago. Do you remember Quant? Do you remember that? All the nonsense and all the hype and all the garbage. Has anyone got caught in that? Because this is what comes next. What was the other one that you guys were talking about? WTW, I think it was, right? Was that the other one? Because it was tweeted from the Binance guy, right? And so again, when you see what did I tell you guys, right? When someone mentioned this thing, this thing is going nuts, right? It looks like this when you guys mention it. And then I say, watch out, because this is next. And look, I mean, it's trying to hold itself up. Okay. But if you bought somewhere in this top range, you are now taking some pain. And you say, okay, that's a little bit of pain. It's no big deal, right? It's going to come back. You're taking, it's not about the amount of pain. It's about the risk. The risk here is very high. Why? Because it can retrace back to here, right? That's why. There's no support really until there, unless it finds a new support, which is what it's trying to do right now. And this candle may turn into a buy signal, right? You have a potential double bottom. But in light of what Bitcoin is doing, if Bitcoin continues to pull this market, and pull everything with it, that support can break. It's enormous risk. That's the key factor there, risk, not reward. So that's why, like, even something like this, I wouldn't be very excited about it. Even though it's a bearish structure, it's counter to what's going on in the environment. And these things are not favored, especially if this party started because someone tweeted. Okay, I know it's the guy that runs Binance, but still, if that's what drove all this, that's nothing but hot air. That's not, any real, that's just nonsense. Okay, you might as well buy the FTT token too while you're at it. Okay, so anyway, No, I haven't talked about oil. Good. Oh, World Cup, Kai. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, that's important. That's a global event, World Cup. It's not going to affect the markets probably, but a lot of people are going to be watching it. Okay, it may lower the volume, especially I don't know what countries are playing. I'm more of an American football follower. Okay, let's take a look. Oil, USD, WTI. All right, now oil is been, oil is wild. Okay, is this the right chart that I'll? Yes, it is. So oil is going to be very geopolitically sensitive. We can still gather important information from the bigger picture. I mean, look at this, right? Generally, and oil also goes against the dollar typically, right? So stronger dollar, we're likely to see weaker oil. Look at this double top. I know we've talked about that, and I know I've talked about not going long at that double top area, right? That's the weekly chart. So, now oil has pulled back off of that double top. Look at where it is now, and look at the setup we're getting. That's a pin bar, a bullish pin bar in a support area. This is a general support area, okay? This area right here. So that's a possible double bottom developing there. Just keep in mind, the bigger picture is not exactly in your favor. Taking a long here may be worth a few points or something like that, but I would not be expecting a trend reversal. Like expecting a move to here is not reasonable, okay? Because you're going against a lot of things, especially the dollar. But a move to here is reasonable. That's much more reasonable. So if that's worth your risk, that may be worth an aggressive swing trade. Maybe I'll call that. But I don't think too many people that follow me trade oil, or the CFD. I don't think a lot of people trade. That's why I try to stick to markets that, like if I make a Bitcoin call, I know a lot of people are interested in that. But if I make a call in oil, they're like, oh, I don't trade oil, So we'll see. But that's certainly how that's what it looks like is developing there. Now, keep in mind, like I said, oil is wild. It can do a lot of wild things for a lot of irrational reasons. You have to respect that about oil. But this would be a reasonable push, up into this area for an aggressive swing trade long. Or you can wait to see where the rally goes, if there's any type of rally, and then look to short it. Okay, short the resistance. Shorting resistance areas, whether it's this one or this one back, maybe you get another test of this area here. Shorting resistance levels is the more conservative thing to do because the general trend on this thing in recent time is bearish, and that would be especially true in light of a strong dollar. Okay, makes sense? Thank you for asking about oil. Okay, okay. Well, I think, but what's his name? The guy from Binance tweeted something. That's what someone told me anyway. I don't pay attention to any of that drama, but people are going nuts over that TWT thing, and I warn people, don't be buying that thing. Don't get excited when it looks its best. Do not. You have to separate yourself. Don't let your human nature get the best of you. That's one of the biggest obstacles you face as a beginner trader is the contention with your own human nature. It's your enemy. It does not help you in this game. I cannot stress that enough. Human nature will not help you. Okay? It's what forex brokers and market makers, it's what they depend on to make money from you, especially when they take the other side of your trades. I mean, the forex broker business model is based on exactly that. Okay, 80 or 90% of their customers lose all their money. Why would you not want to trade on the other side of that? Okay, that's almost guaranteed profit pretty much. And that's all based on human nature. It's not because they have some kind of magical algorithm that's making them money. It's human nature. All right. People are irrational. They make very unwise choices at the wrong times because they're reacting to emotions. And the more stimulant they give you, the more you trade, and they make money on fees too. All right. You ever see these ridiculous platforms with all this stuff moving around? It's all nonsense, all of it. And no one wants to hear that. That's why I'm not very popular. People don't like what I say because I don't make them feel good about all this stuff that they've been receiving. They want to be excited. They want to be told that they're going to get rich tomorrow. And, this game is possible and you can quit your job. And this is not a game of skill. Okay. No one wants to hear that. They want to know, but it's a skill. I'm going to learn it like a mechanic. Yeah. Okay. It's a game of chance. It took me 15 years to figure that out. Okay. So game of chance means you're not going to, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much how many oscillators do you use? It doesn't matter. It's not going to improve your results. You can flip a coin and get the same results. That is a game of chance. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you know, really. I mean, so that's why I look at the simplest pieces of information possible. It doesn't matter how much news you know. It doesn't matter no, all that is garbage, all of it. It's just an illusion of control. Okay. I repeat that a lot, and it doesn't matter how often I repeat it, people still make the same mistakes. But that's an emotional situation. If you find yourself continuing to make the same mistakes, again, that's a function of emotional control. All right, so back to this Bitcoin chart. Just want to see what's going on here. All right, so any other questions? Any other questions, you guys? Let's go back to the Coinbase chart. Okay. Yeah, so that day trade from earlier, was anyone take that day trade from earlier? Let me just look at the 5-minute chart here real quick. I just want to see like how that would have played out. I mean, I mentioned, just to catch some of you guys up, where was that trade? That was, I think, was it around, where was that? I can't even remember where it was. Let me see. That was around here somewhere. That was here. That was this area right here, I believe, right? I think it was around there, short. And I mean, if that was the case, there was a look. I mean, you had to wait around quite some time before you had this, right? Interesting, right? Okay. Anyway, we'll look at that again tomorrow. But the 30-minute, as you guys remember, the 30-minute favored that outcome. Remember what I said about the 30-minute? And remember what I said about not flipping long? Remember? I said, don't flip this thing long, going against the 30-minute. Okay. One thing I wanted to always ask you, how is living? Kai, it's not a very good question to ask me. I'm very anti-New Jersey. Okay. I don't like New Jersey at all. The weather sucks here. All right. It's cold. It's miserable. The people are not my favorite. Okay, I don't like Jersey at all. So if you're thinking about moving here, you know what? I would suggest moving to Florida with Bill. Florida is beautiful. I love Florida. And in fact, half of New Jersey moved to Florida. But New Jersey stinks. I don't like it at all. The taxes are high here. Property taxes are high. It's just a miserable place. Okay, why do you think I'm bald? So anyway, yeah, no New Jersey. There's much better places. South. Go south. Okay, good question. I took it on paper. Okay, of course, after the fact. But if it was a loss, oh man, I took it for real. It's a loss. Okay, Dow Jones. Okay, Avi, sure, no problem. How are you? Avi from Israel. I remember. See, I have a good memory sometimes. Let's see here. Dow. So we can look at US 30, right? That's the CFD. That's the same thing. Okay. So we could type in US 30. And the numbers may be a little bit different, but here's the thing you have to understand. This is going to look very similar to the S&P. This is just 30 stocks, right? 30 industrial stocks. And I mean, look at the same type of hesitation. Don't get too obsessed with that. Focus on the location. Look at this. I mean, you want to be long Dow stocks up here? I wouldn't want to be. That's a really bad level. Okay, it doesn't mean that there's no guarantee it's going to sell off, but the risk is high. And so maybe with all the optimism and all the nonsense and all the good feelings, maybe it pushes a little further and it gives us the fake out. That's what I would suspect. And that's where I would count risk. That's how I would measure the risk. So I wouldn't be going long here. And shorts might still be risky as well. If you're going to short anything, if you're thinking short, you're better off using an index to short, not a stock. And if you're going to use an index, it usually pays to use options, because options give you a lot more control over risk, okay, in a number of ways. I'm not going to explain all that here, but if I was going to short something like this, I would probably use the NASDAQ. It's all basically the same. I would use options, okay, most likely. I mean, you can use vertical spreads, great way to control risk. And there's a number of, varieties. You can do short calls. You can do long puts. I mean, like a bull put spread or whatever. I mean, I'm going to mix up the terms. That's why I don't want to say them. But you can basically short calls and protect yourself. You can buy puts and also protect yourself or at least reduce the cost of being long puts. Okay, those are some of the things you can consider. You want to short it. Okay, yeah. So it's you're in the location, Avi. You're in the location. That's clear. But there's no signal. Okay. And what I don't like is I don't like this hesitation, because there were some signals earlier and they were negated. Okay, so it's just fooling around here. You're going into a holiday week. Your best bet is to wait this week out and maybe look at this again next week. All right, and maybe a move starts, but you're better off waiting and missing a portion of the move than shorting this thing too early and then watching this thing spike like this. Because when it's obvious like that, lots of other people are thinking the same thing. And if they're shorting it, that can lead to a short squeeze. And you don't want to be caught in that, right? So when you use options, it's a lot easier to be able to sit through that and not have to get shaken out, right? There's a lot of advantages, but I'm not going to explain all that here. Okay, but thank you for asking. Good question. On FTX, okay, I watched my P&L rise only to realize my money was gone the moment I transferred it. That's a good point, Kai. Simulate, none of it was real. Yeah, I mean that was the scam of all scams, and and there was no way to know. That's a risk we all take just being in this game. Any exchange, it's even Coinbase. Even though Coinbase is, they have some SEC regulation. I mean, the SEC was connected to that situation there with FTX. They don't have jurisdiction over it, but people knew stuff, right? So you can't even trust the regulators. Anyway, but that's a risk that we all take by being in this game. And the only way you can really mitigate that is don't keep a lot of money on an exchange. Of course, after the fact, yeah, we can all sit here and say that. But that is a risk that we all must account for and address. It's part of the game when you're playing that game. There's no insurance, at least with some stocks, they have SIPC insurance. Most stock brokers have that. So if they go out of business, you're going to get some of that money back if it was below a certain threshold or whatever, right? You can read about that. But these things, there's no insurance. They run away with your money, right? Sam over there runs away. $1 billion missing. He took your money, Kai. He took it, and now he's on a beach somewhere. Maybe. I don't know where he is. Okay. Anyway, with your money, he's got your money, and a lot of other people's money too. All right. I'm just going back here. Anything else? Okay. U.S. is playing with Wales. I'm watching. Okay. Can you peek at Tesla? Sure. Okay. That may be that Tesla situation. I mean, there's all kinds of drama with that thing. First, thanks. Second, I am holding some coin for a while. My goal is 4 to 5 years. Okay. Good question. Thanks for the advice. When I listen to you, I make a little. When I listen to others, I lose a lot. You should complain to them. All right. Hey, I'm looking to go long Bitcoin for greater than a year. All right. So you guys are thinking long term. All right. Let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. And there was a question about Tesla. So let me address Tesla real quick. TSLA. So you have to understand something about, hey, look at that. So Tesla, there's a lot of drama with it. And also Twitter is probably going to act as a weight on this thing, especially if there's all kinds of drama and problems coming out with that. I mean, that's certainly, it's going to be felt on this stock, because now this basically is going to represent Twitter. Even though it's not the same company, there's still going to be effects from it. Okay. That's something that you can't avoid. It's a perception thing. It's not a factual mathematical thing. And so here's the thing. This thing broke some important supports, right? This thing I believe is an S&P stock. So that's certainly going to have a weight on the S&P. Let's just go back here. Let's see where we are. Look at this. Look at all these supports we broke. Like, that's not good. Okay. So anyone that just believed in whatever, you're fighting a generally a bearish situation. Look, I have a lot of respect for Elon Musk. And I mean, if anyone's a genius, it's him. And if anyone knows markets, it's him. I have a lot of respect for the guy. He's the risk taker of risk takers. Okay. But just because all these great things doesn't mean that his stock is going to perform well in this environment. From what I understand, they borrow a lot of money. whoever borrows a lot of money is going to suffer in a rising rate environment. So that's also going to put some weight on this. As of right now, I mean, look what you're dealing with. Lower high. You're pushing the support. This thing should not have broken that support. Look at this candle. So that just says bearish momentum is in play and lower prices are likely to follow. That's what it means. How far can this thing go? Your next support is here, and that's 155. Okay, right now you're fooling at 167. That's about what, $12. So that's a possibility. That's a level to account for. And there's absolutely no reason to buy this thing right now. Okay, there's nothing reversal or bullish or nothing about that candle that says go long. If you buy that, you're stepping in front of something that, has some room to go lower. So I would hold off on that, especially consider, we looked at the S&P, we looked at the NASDAQ, right? They're fooling around near a resistance, and this thing is breaking supports. That's relative weakness. If S&P sells off, this thing is going straight to support, most likely. So please, don't lose sight of that, okay? Not a good one right now. If you're long this thing, I don't know what to tell you. It's a tough one to sit on, okay? All right, so let me answer those Bitcoin questions. Got a bunch of questions here about long-term Bitcoin. So here's the thing, right? So when you're thinking long-term Bitcoin, 4 or 5 years or whatever, year out, whatever, here's the thing. Again, when you're playing that game, charts will not help you really, okay? Because technical analysis, we don't know where these markets will be in a year or in 5 years. There's no way to know, all right? Especially because things change, new pieces of information come out that were unexpected. I mean, no one saw this FTX thing coming, no one. You talk to the expert of experts or the fakest of fake gurus, and no one saw it coming, which goes again to prove that news is worthless, okay, until of course it reaches the market. So unless you're an insider and you know in advance what's going on, maybe the guy from Binance knew because he's the one that made the tweet that got it all started. That was inside information. I'm sure he knew Bitcoin was going to go lower, but the point is we don't know what kind of news is going to affect this thing in the future. All we can look at is the structure, right? So based on this structure, I mean, lower low is likely, and with all this negative stuff and rates and all that other stuff, I mean, lower prices in the short term are likely. Now, the cycle needs to change, right, in order for this thing to turn around. My suggestion, if you're looking for a long-term investment, again, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Break it. First of all, decide how much it is that you want to put into the market. Figure that out, okay? 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, whatever that amount is for you. Then you split it up in terms of time and size. Forget the charts. The only thing you're really going to be interested in the charts is, are we making new lows? Because if we are, that's a good price for me to buy a little bit more. That's all and this thing may work its way to 5,000. I'm not saying it will, but it can. It's within range, okay? So if you have a time schedule, 1st of the month, 15th of the month, and you're buying, and you have a $10,000 investment goal, and you're buying $100 at a time, it's going to take you a long time to invest all of that $10,000. And in that time, Bitcoin may test 5K. What if it does that? You're going to be accumulating inventory between here and 5K at very small increments. So that's, in my opinion, a more responsible way to build inventory. Does that make sense? Because if Bitcoin does something ridiculous, you're not going to get shaken out. And another thing, don't use leverage. Okay, when you're looking to build inventory, because that's just going to magnify your losses, right? Don't use leverage. Buy, 1-to-1. Buy spot market. Use dollars. Just convert it to Bitcoin, and that's it. Like buying pieces of gold. Don't use leverage. Don't use futures contract. But I can buy more. Don't do it. Okay, you put yourself at enormous risk when you do that because you're just magnifying the losses, and now you have a margin requirement that they can push you out of if you get a little too big, whatever, and now you go below their margin requirement, they kick you out at the absolute worst price, and they make the money. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, that's a risk that you can avoid. So I hope that answers your question. So again, whether it's 1 year, whether it's 4 or 5 years, I have no idea where it will be, but I can tell you, this is my game plan. When the Fed changes its tune at some point and rates start to come off, then that's going to lift up all this bearish stuff. Now, it doesn't mean Bitcoin's just going to turn right around and next thing you know, it's pushing 20K. It's not going to be like that, but the pressure will start to come off, right? And if you're accumulating during that time, when eventually when Bitcoin realizes that, rates are no longer a threat and money's starting to flow in, the easy money starts to flow in, you will have an inventory, and then you can continue to add to it more aggressively when the price proves itself. So I can't tell you when. All right. The market needs to tell you when. And when I see it, I'll let you know, but we're nowhere near it. Okay. So are these bad prices? No, they're cheap. You're not buying the top, but you have to do this carefully. All right. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into trouble. And I know of people, they were doing this at 40K, and I warned them, and I said, this thing can go to 20K. No, it's not going to go to 20K. I wasn't saying it was going to go there for sure, but I said it's very possible. You're taking a lot of risk. We're breaking supports. We should not be doing that. What do you know? You're not even a big fake guru. You're not even whatever. I don't listen to real gurus. I listen to fake gurus because they tell me what I want to hear. All right. Okay. Have fun with that. Okay. All I know is I'm not caught. All right. Anyway, okay. What was that? Thanks for advice. When I listened, okay. Okay. Yeah, Clea, you have to refresh. Yeah. You're right. And Steve knows when I'm about to sign off. Okay, you guys. So I've been talking too much. I got to cut this thing off. Gold on the higher time frames. All right, I'll just say real quick again. The gold situation is going to be similar to Bitcoin. It's going to be similar. Use the dollar for gold. Do you see the dollar turning bearish? I don't. So as long as we have rates the way they are, and as long as the Fed stays on that, and as long as data keeps coming out saying that, things are too hot and blah, 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 or we have better employment and blah, blah, blah. Those are not good. That's not good news for the Fed. The Fed is going to say, well, that means we still have an inflation threat, right? And we still need to raise rates. As long as they stay on that idea, and the market doesn't see the market has no perception of them laying off, then you're not going to see a rally in these things, okay? You're not going to see gold is another one, right? Everyone, gold. Gold is big, right? Gold is going to go here. Stay away from a lot of drama in gold. Stay away from the drama. Stay away, okay? But look how strong it is. It's not strong. Look at this. That's just irrational nonsense. That's just people overreacting, right? Just like the NASDAQ, just like the other markets we looked at. Stay away from gold. It's not a long. I would not go long this thing. In fact, I would call it a range, okay? And perhaps we test the lower part of the range. This is a function of the dollar. All right. So use the dollar as your gauge. Don't use gold experts as your gauge. Another way to get involved in gold, if you want to get gold long term, buy stocks. Okay. Newmont Mining. I mean, there's a whole list of them, and you can accumulate small. They're not going to be as dramatically affected as gold itself. Okay. A lot of them are just in ranges. And if gold starts pushing lows, they don't get as punished as gold. So that's another consideration, right? Accumulating small shares in the mining areas until the dollar comes off. The dollar needs to get off this bullish trend, right? And there's absolutely no sign of that. So when we start to see the signs, and again, it's going to take some time, because here's the problem that I have. I'm going to say this real quick, and then I'm going to sign off. But sometimes I hear people talk about, the Fed's going to turn. The Fed's overreacting, blah, 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 blah. So what? So the Fed is going to do what? They're going to curb inflation by creating more inflation? I don't know. I get very confused with that, right? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just don't see why. We have a serious inflation problem. I don't see why the Fed is going to, I don't know. They're not going to give rates a break just because it makes people happy. Powell is doing the correct thing. Okay. It may not be politically correct. It may not feel good for a lot of people, but he's trying to preserve the value of the dollar. That's his job. That's the job of the Federal Reserve. They also want to retain their control of the world reserve currency, which means Bitcoin is a target. Okay. And all the garbage altcoins, which are not real anyway, they're just fake money that's been created, right? Basically, that's what they are. I don't care what their protocol solves. It's just fake money. Something like Tether, that's also someone has the license to print US dollars. Okay, basically, we don't know if it's really backed by commercial paper like they say. There's a lot of red flags there, but they print Tether. I mean, they just create them. That's creating dollars. Who do they think they are? The Federal Reserve? So that certainly must have an effect on inflation. My point is, the banking system doesn't like that fake money system. And there's going to be conflict there. That's why I'm not very optimistic about this space right now until I see some changes. I'm not a perma bear, okay? Like someone like accused me of calling me a perma bear. I'm not. I follow the prices, right? When the market tells me that it wants to change, I change. But as long as the market stays the way it stays, I stay there that way also. I follow. I'm a follower of the market, okay? I'm not the leader, and my opinions mean absolutely nothing, all right? So that's the clear mindset you have to have. When the market changes, it will provide the information. It's not going to be the exact bottom, I know that, but I'm waiting, I'm watching, and I'm looking for a good selection of whether it's stocks, high potential stocks, even some garbage altcoins, because just because they're garbage doesn't mean you can't make money in them. Money will flow back. And like Stian pointed out when we talked about this one time recently, keep an eye on those hackathons. That's not something I'm very familiar with, but keep an eye on those hackathons, because I suspect that in the next bull run, when we see that bull run, the altcoins that are going to be the big stars are not going to be the ones that exist now. They're going to be new. All right. So I think it pays to familiarize yourself with all the new junk that's coming out, because when it captures the moron's attention, moron meaning the herd, there'll be profit potential in those things, right? And we want those high potential things, even if they're garbage. Hey, if there's going to be money flowing in there, nothing wrong with capitalizing that, as long as we understand the risks and we understand what can go wrong. All right, then there's nothing wrong with capitalizing on situations like that when they are reasonable and plausible, right? And right now they're not. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. So some things to think about. Again, it's a holiday week. You guys know where to find me during the week. And we'll go from there. Okay. So if you guys have any other questions, you guys know where to find me. Any advice for scalping? Come to follow my links. Okay. I talk about that stuff every day. All right. So guys, again, you know where to find me. If you have any questions, you can send me an email, send me a message on TradingView, send me a private message somewhere else. You guys know where to find me. All right. So enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you very much for